Let's kick things off with Rob Lucci, the guy who used to be considered the strongest member of the CP9 assassin unit. A while back, Lucci ate the devil fruit Nako no Mi. Model. Leopard, and this thing is no joke. Thanks to the fruit, he can shift into a full leopard or a fearsome human-beast hybrid, massively boosting his physical power. And we're not exaggerating when we say, massively. This man once grabbed Luffy and Zoro and launched both of them through an entire building with nothing but raw strength. Once Lucci awakened his devil fruit, that hybrid form went through a serious glow-up. His body got taller, leaner, sharper, and a black flame-like mane appeared across his back and arms, giving him this wild, intimidating presence. In battle, he channels this power straight into his Rokushiki techniques. Moves like Shigen or Rankyaku hit way harder when they're fueled by awakened zone strength. Combine that with claws sharp like blades and an insane amount of leg power, and suddenly every strike becomes faster, heavier, and way more dangerous. On top of that, Lucci mastered Kami Ikikon, a technique that lets him control his muscles however he wants. He can tighten his whole body to boost speed or shrink his frame for quicker movement. Over time, his growth has been impressive, turning him into a truly terrifying fighter. But even with all that progress, when he went up against Luffy in Gear 5, he still got completely overwhelmed. So in the grand power ranking, Lucci remains strong, but still a full tier below Luffy. Next, let's talk about the string-pulling mastermind himself, Don Quixote Doflamingo. Dofi used to be one of the 7 warlords, and he wields one of the most terrifying paramecia fruits, the Ito no Mi. This devil fruit allows him to create razor-sharp strings out of thin air and manipulate them freely just by moving his fingers. With these strings, he can control people like puppets or slice them apart without breaking a sweat. To give you an idea of how deadly these strings are, Doflamingo once cut off Little Oars Jr.'s leg in a single strike. And the strings are so sharp they could have taken Crocodile's head clean off if he hadn't dodged. They aren't just offensive either. Dofi can weave the strings into walls or nets strong enough to stop massive impacts. He even sliced an incoming meteor in half. Yes, a meteor. That alone tells you how crazy the Ito no Mi is. Once he fully awakened the fruit, Dofi basically turned into a walking natural disaster. He could convert the ground and surrounding buildings into strings, letting him attack from anywhere and control entire battlefields. He often formed string tendrils that rained down like blades from above, overwhelming enemies with a storm of cutting attacks. And when he coated those strings with armament haki, the lethality went through the roof. There's no denying it. Doflamingo stands among the strongest warlords in all of One Piece. Now let's slide over to Charlotte Katakuri, one of the Big Mom Pirates' top powerhouses and the ruler of Kamugi Island. Katakuri is the kind of guy who makes even seasoned pirates nervous. His devil fruit, the Mochi no Mi, is a special paramecia that lets him create, manipulate, and transform into mochi, a thick, stretchy, sticky substance similar to taffy. Katakuri uses this power with incredible creativity. He can turn his legs into mochi to strike like a living weapon, generate dense mochi to restrain enemies, or stretch and enlarge his limbs to land long-range blows. Honestly, at this point he could probably craft a giant subscribe button out of mochi and force people to press it. Speaking of which, if you haven't subscribed yet, you might as well do it now so I don't have to keep joking about it. His abilities might look similar to Luffy's stretching powers at first, but the big difference is that Katakuri can transform his entire body into mochi, giving him Logia-like evasiveness and shape manipulation. After awakening the Mochi no Mi, he leveled up even further. Now he can transform the surrounding terrain into mochi and attack from anywhere, controlling huge zones of the battlefield. Even though Katakuri eventually lost to Luffy after their insanely long 21-episode fight, nobody can deny how overwhelmingly strong he is. He's on a completely different tier from most fighters, and his blend of skill, observation haki, and devil fruit mastery places him comfortably above many others on this list. Moving on, let's revisit Kaku, a current member of CP0, the strongest intelligence agency under the Celestial Dragons. We first met Kaku during the Water 7 arc, where he later ate the Ushi no Mi. Model. Giraffe. A zone fruit that allows him to transform into a giraffe or a human-giraffe hybrid. Sounds silly, right? But in Kaku's hands, this became an absolute weapon. Once he combined the zone strength with Rokushiki skills and his unique four-sword style, Kaku became a legitimate threat. In fact, he pushed Zoro to the brink during their Enies lobby fight. Zoro almost lost, which says a lot. After awakening his fruit, Kaku's hybrid form became even more powerful. His neck stretched like a serpent, letting him unleash incredibly fluid and devastating slashes. Unlike the awakened jailer beasts we'll talk about soon, Kaku kept his personality and sanity after awakening, giving him a major advantage in control and strategy. That said, his biggest weakness remains that long, exposed neck. Zoro pointed it out immediately and took advantage of it multiple times. Still, even with this flaw, Kaku is a dangerous combatant with strength that absolutely shouldn't be underestimated. Speaking of those jailer beasts, let's talk about the 4 awakened Zoan jailer beasts from Impel Down. Awakening in Zoan fruits works differently than paramecia. There's a huge risk. The animal instincts inside the fruit can take over completely. And that's exactly what happened to the guards known as the beasts. We've got Minozebra, zebra, Minorhinoceros, rhino, Minotaurus, cow, and Minokoala, koala. These creatures, called jail beasts, have insane physical strength, brutal aggression, and monstrous stamina. Their awakened bodies let them recover from injury incredibly fast, making them a nightmare to deal with inside the prison. But here's the thing, they may be durable and dangerous, but compared to high-tier fighters like Luffy, Jinbei, or Crocodile, they get wiped out pretty easily. And Impel Down also houses monsters like Magellan, Hanayabao, and maybe even Sati, who far outclass them. That's why, despite being awakened, the jailer beasts are the weakest group in today's ranking. Next up, we have Gild Tesoro, the Golden Emperor of One Piece's 13th movie. Film Gold. Tesoro isn't just rich, he literally rules over the largest entertainment city in the world. A massive luxury ship made of pure extravagance. And of course, behind all the glitter is an unbelievably dangerous devil fruit, the Goru Goru no Mi, which lets him manipulate gold however he wants. Tesoro can liquefy gold, harden it instantly, reshape it into anything he imagines, or wrap someone in gold and turn them into a living statue. He basically weaponises wealth. As for defense, Tesoro can cover his entire body in a golden armor that's insanely resilient, strong enough to withstand Luffy's Gear 4 strikes and sharp enough to tank Zoro's blade attacks. That alone puts him high above most movie villains. When Tesoro awakened his devil fruit, his control expanded dramatically. He could use every ounce of gold on his massive ship as a surveillance network, detecting intruders from afar. And offensively, he gained the ability to fire intense metallic energy blasts powerful enough to blow apart Navy warships. It's wild. But the Goru Goru no Mi does have one huge weakness. Tesoro can't create new gold. He can only manipulate the gold that already exists around him. That's why he chose to live on a gigantic floating casino city literally overflowing with the stuff. In other words, Tesoro doesn't just fight on home turf, he fights on a battlefield made of his power source. Smart man. Now let's talk about Trafalgar D. Waterlaw, captain of the Heart Pirates and one of the most iconic fighters of the worst generation. Funny enough, Law's powers don't make him a traditional brawler, they make him a surgeon, a tactician, and a battlefield manipulator all at once. His devil fruit, the legendary Ope Ope no Mi, lets him create a special space called a room, where he can freely manipulate anything inside it. Inside this room, Law can move objects, swap people's positions, take away weapons, slice things without harming them, and even teleport himself. Outside of combat, the fruit is known for its miraculous surgical abilities. It can cure terminal diseases, perform impossible operations, and, at the ultimate cost, grant someone eternal youth. That's why the world government is willing to pay 5 billion berries for it. It's literally considered one of the most valuable fruits ever. In battle, Law uses the Ope Ope no Mi with exceptional creativity. He can redirect enemy attacks, pull opponents into traps, or dismantle structures to control the battlefield. Once his fruit awakened, he gained the ability to coat his sword and certain objects with spatial distortion energy. This lets him expand, stretch, or penetrate targets in ways that cause devastating internal damage. When he combines this awakened energy with Kaku, his enormous sword, he can generate shockwaves inside an enemy's body, bypassing physical defenses entirely. Even though the Ope Ope no Mi is one of the strongest paramecia fruits in the entire story, Law hasn't fully mastered the awakened state yet. Because of that, he still isn't at the absolute pinnacle. But make no mistake, Law is easily one of the scariest fighters walking the seas today. Moving forward, let's break down Eustace Kid, captain of the Kid Pirates and another prominent member of the worst generation. Kid hails from the South Blue and built his reputation with sheer brutality and raw strength. His devil fruit, The Jiki Jiki no Mi is a paramecia that grants him control over magnetic forces. This ability lets him manipulate metal in all sorts of destructive ways. In battle, Kid can repel cannonballs, pull in weapons, or gather huge piles of nearby metal and mash them together into massive constructs. He often forms gigantic mechanical arms and attaches them to his body to deliver bone-breaking melee attacks. If an opponent uses metal weapons, Kid can instantly yank them away or turn those weapons against their owner. Later on, once Kid unlocked his Fruit's awakening, he gained an even wilder ability. He could create magnetic fields directly on his enemies. This meant every piece of metal nearby would violently slam into the target, crushing them, pinning them down, or leaving them completely immobilized. It's a terrifying technique that turns the environment into a weapon factory. However, Kid hasn't perfected this awakened ability yet. Because it drains him heavily, he only brings it out in extreme battles. That's why, despite having some seriously impressive firepower, Kid still falls short of the highest-ranking fighters we'll talk about later. But he's definitely one of the most dangerous brawlers in the worst generation. Now let's shine the spotlight on someone incredibly unique, Douglas Bullet. Former member of the Pirate King's crew. Bullet's story is wild. When he was young, he actually joined Gold D. Rogers' pirates, but later ended up imprisoned and impelled down for over 20 years. When Luffy and Blackbeard caused chaos during the prison breakout, Bullet seized the opportunity and escaped alongside other inmates. His devil fruit, the Gasa Gasa no Mi, is a paramecia that lets him dismantle and reassemble materials using sheer willpower. With it, Bullet can create monstrous battle machines, massive suits of armor, submarines, or even entire war vehicles made from the environment around him. Think of him as a one-man army who can build a fortress mid-battle. Once Bullet awakened his devil fruit, things got even crazier. He gained control over materials across gigantic distances, allowing him to reshape the entire landscape of an island. And combining that with armament hockey, he created a special combat mode reminiscent of Luffy's Gear 4. His body glowed blue, his eyes burned red, and his fists swelled with overwhelming force, maximizing his destructive output. However, Bullet's power does come with a catch. Because his abilities depend on available materials, and his creations require him to understand their structure, his strength is bounded by his engineering knowledge. If he doesn't know how to build something, he can't form it, despite being ridiculously strong, especially in his awakened state. Bullet's existence is limited to the movies, so he's not part of the main storyline's power balance. Finally, we arrive at the man himself, Monkey D. Luffy. Since the very beginning, we were told he ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi, a paramecia fruit that turned his body into rubber. Elastic, stretchy, bouncy, that classic Luffy we all knew. But later on, the manga revealed a massive twist. The fruit wasn't the Gomu Gomu no Mi at all. It was actually the Hito Hito no Mi model, Nika, a mythical Zoan fruit that grants the abilities of the Sun God Nika, embodiment of liberation and joy. According to the Gorosei, this fruit hadn't awakened for hundreds of years. No one could bring out its true form, until Luffy did. That alone terrified the world government, because the fruit's awakened power is something they desperately tried to suppress. Upon awakening, Luffy transformed. His hair and clothes turned white, smoke like clouds swirled around him, and his eyebrows curled into spirals. More importantly, his freedom-based power awakened fully. Luffy gained the ability to warp his body in any way he imagines, shift sizes at will, and even turn the environment into rubber. Anything he touches becomes part of his cartoonish, reality-bending combat style. We saw this against Kaido. Luffy grabbed a massive dragon like it was a toy and fought with a mix of creativity, humor, and overwhelming force. This form, Gear 5, allowed Luffy to finally defeat Yonko Kaido, one of the strongest living creatures in the entire world. And with that victory, he firmly stepped into the top echelon of power. At this point, most awakened devil fruit users don't even come close. Luffy stands alone at the peak, symbol of ultimate freedom and unstoppable strength. So now that we've walked through the abilities and awakened powers of some of the strongest devil fruit users across the One Piece world, let's zoom out and take a broader look at how their strengths stack up, and why Luffy ultimately stands at the very top of the awakened hierarchy. If you love long-form One Piece analysis, remember to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe for more breakdowns every week.